Hello and welcome to the MBOM podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. MBOM is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at MBOM, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Mastering the Business of Yoga. I am super excited and grateful that you're joining me for today's episode of the podcast. And today on the podcast, I'm very excited to have somebody that I have been working with a little bit in the background for a while. Today, I am joined by Dania Valladares, who is joining me from Miami, and she is the co-founder and CEO of CoachPals. And if you guys have been listening to this season of the podcast, then you know that CoachPals has been one of our sponsors. And if you've been following me on social media or on my email list, then you know that I've occasionally mentioned CoachPals. And CoachPals is pretty new, so I'm really excited for you guys to learn more about Dania and to hear more about CoachPals. And Dania's love for science and yoga led her to discover her passion of using technology to make an impact on people's health and well-being. And as a computer scientist, mother, and human being, Dania is committed to developing innovative features and leverage cutting-edge technology to support an environment that focuses on empowering valuable connections, on making wellness services and products available and discoverable to those who need it, and rewarding supportive and inspiring communities of individuals. And this is truly what CoachPals is all about. So in this episode of the podcast, Dania shares where the idea for CoachPals came from, what it's been like building a software platform that's essentially a social media platform, and what she's learned through the process. I was super curious about this because it is a big endeavor to build that, get it out there, fix bugs, get feedback, get users, all that type of stuff. And then we also discussed the importance of networking in the yoga industry, why it's important as an entrepreneur, and how CoachPals is changing the game for yoga teachers who want to network, and so much more. So this episode is really jam-packed with goodness, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. Before we get into it, I just wanted to give you a quick little reminder that my new book, How to Master the Business of Yoga, is out and available for purchase. If you've already purchased it, thank you so much. I would love to hear what you think of it as you start reading it. And if you haven't purchased it yet and you're interested, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com/book. All right, my friends, let's get into this episode. Without further ado, here is Dania. Dania, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Happy for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you kind of like on the show, because you and I have had so many conversations offline. I feel like we've been chatting know each other for about a year now. I think it must be that you've been working on CoachPals and I've been a part of that. And I'm really excited to be able to share this in a broader sense with my audience and hear a little bit more about your story. So really grateful for our time together today.
Thank you.
Can you tell me where you're joining us from today?
I'm based on Miami. So I currently living in Miami. I am a Latina, though I'm originally from Cuba. So born and raised in Havana, but I moved here in 2008 and made Miami my second home and never left since then.
Yeah, little Cuba.
Yes, exactly.
I've only been to Miami once, but I love like what a cultural blend it is. And it was so cool to go to places that are like, owned by Latinos, run by Latinos, but just in the grocery store, it's like you hear so much just like English and Spanish, and other languages also, because it's so multicultural there. But I really noticed like how much English and Spanish was there, and I was like, oh, I love this city.
I know, I love it too, and plus I have like convenient cafecitos nearby, so I couldn't live without the Cuban coffee. So that's perfect.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. And I'd love to kick things off by you sharing a little bit about yourself. Can you tell me like a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that good stuff?
Sure. So as I say, I'm originally from Cuba, and a lot of what I do has to do with my childhood. I grew up, my dad was a electrical engineer, and I remember growing up, my house was always full of computer pieces and keyboards and monitors everywhere. So I remember how much I enjoyed the opportunity of assembling these keyboards and testing them with my dad. So I think this sparked in me a passion for solving problems and dealing with technology. So as far as I can remember, I always said, I want to be a computer scientist. I want to be a woman in science. So I grew up to that and I went to college and I graduated as a computer scientist. And today I am a software engineer. So that's what I do. And a little bit more, it's that I kind of found a pivotal point in my life to blend my passion for technology and the impact that I wanted to do on the wellness industry. So fast forward today, I am the co-founder of CoachPals.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm so curious, like where did the idea for Coach Pals come from? Like where did you guys kind of birth this idea?
Yes, I think actually before coming up with the idea of CoachPals, as I said, I had this moment in which I went through a very tough year. I lost my dad at the same time uh, that I had my first kid. So I was kind of figuring out how to be a new mom and dealing with all the grief and pain. So I found yoga as my healing practice. It was a way of kind of reconnecting with myself and try to find the best version for my kid and to be happy and to be at a good point. So for me, this practice was so transformational and was so amazing that I thought I have to do everything I can so I could make this practice available for anybody that needs it. And I have the technical abilities. I know how to do this. So I made that kind of my mission. And then CoachPals really came, the idea of this platform came from our users. I started working with my co-founder, Gerardo, on an initial idea. Then we started talking to a lot of yoga teachers and yoga business owners and then started asking them what their main problems and frustrations and challenges with their businesses. And we found that the root cause was that there was a lack of a platform that allowed them to showcase their professional identity in a way that was truly impactful to their businesses. And most of the platforms were focused on marketing, and there was no real platform to do strategic connections. And so that's where the idea of CoachPals came from. And we built it so it's this professional network for the industry.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. It's amazing to hear that yoga had such a, impact on your life. It's such a hard, a hard chapter. And I as you know, I have a small child, and it's hard for me to imagine, going through grief while also dealing with postpartum and trying to figure out motherhood and breastfeeding and healing from birth and all the things. So, I'm so sorry to hear that you had to go through both death and birth at the same time, because it's just such a dichotomy that's so hard to like manage at the same time. But I think it's also beautiful that you were able to find the practice and be able to come to the practice and help you get through that. It's as something that's so near and dear to my heart. It's really nice to hear that, that was able to guide you and that's like led you on the path that you are now. So it's really inspiring. And I'm curious for people who, maybe don't know, haven't heard of Coach Pals. Tell us a little bit about, what it is. And I'm sure there's going to be like many, growths and iterations as Coach Pals evolves over the years, but tell us about like this current iteration of Coach Pals and what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. So CoachPals is a very unique platform. And first of all, it's a platform that it's built based on many interviews and many knowledge that we've gathered from professionals in the yoga and mindfulness space. So I like to say that it's a very unique platform because of two specific pillars. The first one is our professional profiles. We want you to be able to showcase your professional identity. This means your qualifications, your unique life experiences, the impact you've made into your client's life, into their community, but in a way that can be secured, verifiable, and trusted so that people can just look at that professional identity and that digital record and understand who you are and what's your offering and why should they trust that offering. So our vision is that you as a yoga teacher, for example, can walk into a yoga studio that you want to work with and they can look at your profile and they can instantly trust your qualifications and verify your qualifications. So this for us is kind of the main pillar. And then the second one is the network itself. It's a network that's built strategically. We've taken features from platforms, successful actually networking platforms that we know work really well, like LinkedIn, and we've applied that to the wellness industry. And then you can do some very powerful things. For example, gather endorsement and testimonials. You can use it for referrals and recommendations. You can get lots of insights. You can have access to data analytics. And most importantly, for me, when you connect in this network, you will have access to lots of opportunities. So, for example, one of the critical points in the industry today is the job searching. So I want people to be able to find job opportunities worldwide, everywhere, and to have access to possible partnerships and collaborations. So for me, this is one of the most important aspects of the platform, to actually help you build a strong presence professionally and then connect strategically in a network that impacts your business and your growth.
I love that. I feel like the way I like to, or that I've thought about it, is kind of like, it's sort of like if LinkedIn and Yoga Alliance like had a really awesome baby. I feel like, I don't know, does that feel accurate to you?
Yes, absolutely. It's very interesting. Like many of our clients that now become almost also friends come and say, "Hey, this is like LinkedIn for wellness," and I think that is very accurate to some extent. Now we've had many other features that we've discovered are important in this industry as well, and that are important especially to make visible the impact yoga teachers or in general professionals are having in the community. So yeah, it's very accurate, I think, but it also comes to the idea that it's not only connecting you to opportunities, but also connecting your clients to you. So it's a platform that is also that's been structured to allow people to search and find the services and products that match their needs. So as we start connecting this very powerful network of professionals with very diversified skill sets and capabilities, then we're gonna let people find really the personalized combination of services they need to live a happier and healthier life. So I think it's for both. It's for professionals to connect with other professionals and to find opportunities, but also for people to find them when they need them. It's very hard today to be able to just search online using your language, like say, "Hey, I am struggling with depression," or "I'm a new mom," and just find that service and that person you need to connect with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think that this is something like when I teach the business of yoga, especially in teacher trainings, it's like, where do I find yoga jobs? And it's like, well, they're often not listed on the internet, right? It's like maybe there's like an opportunity listed on Indeed or something, but I feel like those are really like few and far between. It's more like it's traditionally been like, hey, you got to suss out the studios in your area, see if they're a good fit, go try a class there, meet the studio owner, drop off a resume, do a demo. And I feel like having a platform where maybe a studio could be like, hey, if anyone's like in the area or interested, this is the type of teachers we're looking for, we're hiring type thing. And then people can go on search, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like there's a really cool opportunity for that. And I mean, on a bigger sense too, with like virtual offerings, like if you have virtual offerings, I feel like huge opportunity to connect. And then, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more, is just the networking. I think one thing I found as a yoga teacher is that it can be a little bit lonely. I think something we don't think about when we start teaching yoga is like, yes, you're in front of people, you're talking to your students, you're with them, and that fills a bucket for us. But you probably don't see other teachers. Like maybe you pass them as like you finish your class, they're starting their class. But unless you're being really intentional, you are probably not going to actually connect with them.
Yes, that is true. And I think that's especially was proved after COVID. And there is a tremendous opportunity. I think there is a technology gap in the industry in which you cannot just gain a very broad understanding of the industry overall and how can you use it to help you build a successful business. What are the skills? Like, for example, what does a successful career path looks like? What are other professionals with your same skill sets doing to get to your goal? Is that working? What are the pain points? What's the danger? What's the next step? So I think that's where we ultimately want to go, to just give you all that 360-degree view of this is how my career should look like, and this is one way of building it, and get all that insight and knowledge.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And so if somebody is like going to CoachPals and they're, checking out the platform and thinking about getting started with a profile, what are your kind of tips for somebody who's just like brand new? Like, where do they start? What should they check out? All of that type of stuff.
So the first thing that I would recommend is to really put time into creating a strong profile. Every area of that profile has been designed following the strategic networking principles. So this is a tremendous opportunity to really start impacting your business from day one without really knowing those principles yourself. So there's a lot of time that we put into studying and interviewing and understanding what is needed to succeed in this industry. And that is something that you can just leverage really quick by completing your profile. And the second step will be connecting, reaching out, exploring, look for other professionals with your same skill set or complementary skill sets, reach out to them. When you connect in CoachPals, you can do direct messaging, and it's a platform with zero noise. So every user here, it's on the same industry. They could either be your potential client, right, or your potential partner. So there is a lot of value that you can gain from those direct communications. So that would be my top two tips, I would say. One is complete your profile so can people understand who you are, what you're doing, and what you're offering. And then reach out, connect, and engage with the community, because there's so many incredible opportunities that could come from that networking.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I know the platform's still, growing and stuff like that. So the community's, still on the smaller side, but I feel like even for me, it's been really fun to like use the chat feature. And, I connected with a yoga teacher who she knew somebody who I knew. So we kind of knew somebody. She reached out to me, was like, "Hey, I love your podcast." We ended up chatting and doing a podcast interview together. So, and then the type of yoga she teaches is I think she'd be great for my mom. So I'm going to intro her to my mom. So I feel like that's like one connection that I've had through the platform that's been really cool, just in the last couple of months. So I feel like there is lots of opportunity there. And I think one of the things, you and I had talked about was I like LinkedIn. I see the benefits of LinkedIn, have a profile there and stuff, but the amount of like spam I get into my DMs is just, it's incredible. Like the amount of messages I get that just aren't relevant, or like, do an MBA, like, are you interested in this opportunity? And it's like, no, I'm not interested in any of this actually. And I love the idea of being able to focus on like the industry that I am actually interested in and connecting with people that, I do want to network with without having to, search like high and low to find these people.
Yes, I feel like LinkedIn is it's a wonderful platform, but it's built with a different purpose. Those profiles are very academic and are built for this type of career path that is more oriented to the corporate world. And I think there is a lot of opportunity on connecting, as you said, in a platform that is just 100% dedicated to the yoga and mindfulness space. So completely agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's a good segue into talking a bit more about networking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on like why networking is important as an entrepreneur, and, how CoachPals can kind of help yoga teachers with their network. I know we've talked about it a little, but just diving a little bit deeper into it, because I feel like this is such a huge part of what you guys do.
I can share a little bit of my personal experience and how I came so in love and appreciative of networking. Um, in my path to being a CEO and a founder of a technology startup, I've discovered the importance of networking. I've studied many like successful CEOs and business entrepreneurs, and one of the things that I noticed is that if they're a little bit humble, they will tell you that either way to success, there was this person, there was this meeting, there was this connection that really made the difference. And that has many shapes and forms. It could be a mentor, it could be an investor, it could be that first client. But it's really that connection that makes a difference in your journey. So I think sometimes when we talk about networking, there is like mixed feelings. Some people love networking, some people not so much. And it's probably because when you hear the word networking, your mind sometimes goes to these huge gatherings where you're just handing like presentation cards. And for me, that's not exactly what networking is. So at least it's not exactly the way successful networking works. Um, for me, networking to be successful has to be strategic. And it comes to thinking and establishing your goal. It could be personal or professional. So once you set that goal, then, for example, it could be about like growing your business to some extent, getting these many clients. Then you break down into different steps or stages that you need to complete in order to get to that goal. And then from there, I usually think, okay, if I want to get to this goal, how my path has to look 3 months from now, 6 months, a year from now. And in that journey, who do I need to connect with to make this a successful path? And you'll be surprised then how networking can really help you get there. So the way we build CoachPals is to make that transition completely as seamless and possible. So again, for me, it's not about establishing just social links. It's about establishing real connections, real relationships. And I think one of the most important characteristics of that connection to be for it to be real is that you really need to give more than what you receive. And you really have to, follow up and make that connection last. That's why, I remember one day I wanted to start talking about some business initiative with a person, with a yoga teacher that I was following on Instagram. And when I tried to do that, I just hit a wall with a tremendous amount of followers. I think she had like over 11,000 followers. And I'm like, how am I going to be able to make this cold introduction for myself with this many followers? How am I going to quickly be able to convey a message that she's going to be able to read and trust within this environment that is completely different, right? It's built for marketing. It has a different purpose. So I think that's why these marketing platforms are not ideal for networking.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I feel like as you were talking, I was just thinking about like, the experiences I've had on other social media platforms and just how it's really hard to discern like who is a real person, I think, and like what the intention is. Cause I feel like there's so many people who are just like, can I sell you this thing? Or, you want to be a brand ambassador, and it's like, what's real, what's not. I think particularly about Instagram with that. And I feel like even with LinkedIn, like I said, I get so many like DMs versus being on a platform that, is a little bit more like community focused about actually finding people who are like-minded, aligned, that type of thing, and using that to build your network. And, I know networking can be really uncomfortable. I think we can all think about like that. I don't know, going to like a mixer or cocktail party and you're like, who do I go talk to? I know no one here, like who looks approachable, and it can be so intimidating. And I love that we have platforms that can make it less intimidating. Like going to somebody's profile that looks interesting and hitting connect on CoachPals is like so much easier than walking up to somebody and being like, hi, I'm Amanda. Like that can be so intimidating. And I love that we've got something that allows it to be a bit easier now.
And one of my favorite features, it's also kind of the ability to do warm introductions. So when you go to somebody's profile, you're also able to see their network. So we allow you to quickly understand, okay, if I need to get to Amanda, maybe I can talk to somebody in her network that I already know and I'm connected to. So we allow you that type of visibility. We allow you to like just foresee the path to the person that can help you really make a difference. And that could be because it's your next mentor or your next partner or your next client. So we allow you for that type of visibility. And I think that that's amazing. That could be of a lot of use in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I feel like one of the things you kind of mentioned was, so say you're a yoga teacher who's looking to get like yoga clients and stuff. It's, there's an opportunity for finding people who you can work with, and then also obviously networking with other professionals. I'm curious about the side of it where, like, say you're a teacher who's offering privates. Have you guys seen, an uptake on more like students kind of signing up because like their favorite teachers are on there, that type of thing? I'm curious about that side of the platform.
I think that's one of the parts of the platform that's growing the most. And this comes to trying to establish us as a technology platform in the wellness industry. So we want to also become that space where people can come and look for things for specific skills or problems they need to solve. When it comes to establish clientele, I think it's amazing that you can just search your QR code. For example, if you go to a yoga studio or to a yoga conference and you want to meet more students, and they are quickly able to see there who you are and trust your identity as a teacher. I think it's really important to see your skills being endorsed, maybe by some other teachers they already know, or maybe by like well-recognized entrepreneurs in the industry they already know and trust. And that being able to do that mental map and that mental references are truly important when it comes to deciding, okay, this is the teacher that I want to work with. And also being able to access testimonials and see how kind of the whole chain of networking and skills come together. So yes, definitely we see more and more teachers using that as kind of their digital presentation card because it's very powerful. The whole journey and skills and qualifications are embedded in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I know I did a webinar with CoachPals on resumes and the importance of resumes. This is something that I always like teach yoga teachers. And it's really cool because we were kind of talking about how we can take like the traditional resume model and basically build your resume on CoachPals, which is really cool. And then being able to have like the QR code is awesome because you can, send that to a studio owner if you're looking for jobs. You can give it to, students. Like if a student's like, hey, I'm curious about your offerings, that type of thing. It's like, hey, check out what I offer here. And it's like all in one place. One of the things I'm also a big fan of is yoga teachers creating websites. And I know that can be really intimidating to them. And I think it's not that it necessarily replaces a website, because I do think a website has like a time and a place. But if you're just starting out and that's intimidating to you, I love the idea of just being able to create a profile. You've got kind of like your resume, your offerings, links to things that you want people to check out in one place. So it's like, hey, you've got this kind of like storefront on the internet while maybe you build out more of your business on the back end. So I think there's like a lot of cool opportunities with that.
And I think that's a very interesting point because one of my lessons learned in this process is that, especially when you are trying to become a new yoga teacher or trying to run a new venture as a business entrepreneur, it's really important to test those concepts first. So I feel like, as you said, putting together a CoachPals profile will give you the ability to assess the market, to understand who is your target audience, to understand what type of users engage more with, what type of your profiles, and or what type of skills. So I think it will be a really quick and effective way of understanding how to better shape your vision and your business going forward before you make any serious investments, for example, in a website or in more technology or marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're going to like hire a web designer or, get whole like series of professional photos taken, et cetera, those expenses can add up over time. And so it's nice to have kind of this like low barrier to entry to kind of, get your toes wet a little bit. I'm curious, I don't know anything. I'm not a computer scientist at all, like not even close to that. So I'm curious what it's been like building a software platform, and especially something that's like essentially social media. Like I feel like, you're not competing with Instagram, TikTok, that type of thing, but I feel like you're creating this platform that's like, networking, social media-esque. Like what has this process been like for you guys?
It's been really interesting. We have an amazing team of engineers that are very passionate about technology, and we've been through. I think, as I said, I'm very passionate about challenges and about technology. So we've learned a lot, and we had the opportunity to do a lot of innovation. I think CoachPals is a very disruptive platform. But in my opinion, what's been more interesting and challenging, it's also the mindset. Is this idea that because there's no platform like this today for the wellness industry. So this idea that if I have to grow my business all I have to use, or all at least what I have available till now, is just marketing tools and algorithms that are tuned for that purpose. So this idea that through a professional platform, you could also get a lot of benefits and you can get a lot of clients and a lot of opportunities. So it's this work of changing the mindset. And there is um, lots of exciting things coming to CoachPals in the future. We have great ideas that we're testing and cannot wait to present to the community. Again, in the past, to try and look for tools to really amplify the impact of yoga teachers and yoga businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to dive into those a little bit if you're willing to share some of them. But before we get there, I want to ask a follow-up question around kind of the building of software, because I know you said you started with, sort of one iteration that's not really what CoachPals is now. But like building out this software, you guys basically like talked to people to kind of get what they needed and basically built something for them. Is that correct? And then listening to feedback to kind of make updates, changes, that type of thing?
Yes, so that's one of the biggest things. We are really building this tool to solve real problems that we've learned from the community. So we've started with an idea, and we pivoted into a tool that was proof the need of existence, so that it was proof that people needed it. So what we do is that we usually, before launching a feature or a tool in CoachPath that we think it's going to benefit a group of professionals or solve a problem, we start conducting lots of interviews. We start putting together a group of insiders, and we give them the opportunity to just use these tools ahead of time. So to explore it with their clients, with their communities, and to give us feedback. So our goal is to really go to market with something that's truly meaningful to them and they're looking forward to. So we're really trying to solve real problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think that that's a great way to build something, right? Is like, finding out what people need and building that. I think that's one thing I kind of learned early on in my business journey was, talk to your people, talk to the people that you want and see what they actually need, because you could spend a bunch of money, a bunch of time, a bunch of energy creating something that people don't need, because you think it's interesting doesn't mean your audience or your network necessarily thinks that's interesting. So I love that model. And I'm curious, what is it like? Like, does it have bugs sometimes? You guys get like, oh no, like the platform's crashed, like too many people, like does that type of stuff happen? I feel like that would freak me out as like a computer scientist or like an engineer.
Absolutely. It can absolutely happen. Now, there's some things that the technology that we have today kind of accommodate more, like, the huge crashings and that. We don't have the volume that Facebook had some years ago when it crashed, for example. But then we trust like cloud computing and cloud hosting to make sure we are highly available and the website doesn't come down. But of course, we have bugs, and we have users that sometimes send us emails, hey, this doesn't work. And my favorite emails are those that people that are hacking the system are, hey, I want to use CoachPals for this, can I do it? And I'm like, well, maybe no, and they're like, but I want to do it. I'm doing it like this. And then you identify a new problem and maybe a new value to your system. So I love when users kind of engage in just, hacking the system and understanding how it works and how to use it better for their businesses. And so, but we are super open to feedback. We're always there, checking our emails. We're super responsive. So we really take care of our users and their businesses. So yes, we absolutely, we have bugs, but we try to make the best out of those bugs and learning and make the product better each time.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. And of course, with any platform, I mean, even one that has, I don't even know how many like engineers would work at Facebook. I'm sure they've got hundreds and hundreds, working with them, and platforms still crash. I feel like that's just part of like being on the internet. But yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I think it's really cool to have like, people who are like, I want to do this. And then because you're a newer platform, it's like, okay, could we like work this in? Like maybe this is something that people want. Like I love being like the idea of being able to like kind of, take that feedback that you're getting and build up features and, shift and change based on what your people need. I think that that's awesome.
I remember the day you told us that it would be cool to have an intro email and like an intro video in your profile to kind of make it more personal. And we made it happen. And I think it's been one of the favorite features for many of the yoga teachers. They love to put their intro videos in there and make it, more personal.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was like, this would be such a cool feature. I feel like it's something that kind of would make it, stand out from some of the other platforms. And then I think it wasn't long. You sent me an email like, hey, this is up. Can you record a video? And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. On that note, can you tell us a little bit about, what the future looks like for CoachPals? What do you guys have on the horizon? I'm sure there's lots of stuff, but maybe update us on whatever you're comfortable sharing at this time.
I think one of our biggest goals right now is to try help yoga teachers who offer yoga teacher trainings to get their program to the next level. We want them to be able to issue a special type of certificates. Think about it like digital certificates. They can be automatically integrated into their student's profile. So we want to create a decentralized system where qualifications can be actually trusted without the need of any centralized authority. So we're really looking forward to the time in which a yoga school or yoga teacher training program that has a good reputation based on their success of their students, based on their programs they offer, they can actually issue certificates that are enough on itself to impact the career and the success of their students. So there are no questions asked. And if you are a graduate of a program, you can just walk again into that yoga studio and just show your certificate, and they can instantly verify and understand not only that you have that certificate, but understand the reputation of that yoga school that issued that certificate. Understand, what's their value and what they are bringing and how they're impacting their community. So I think this is going to open up a new era of opportunities for diversifying the offerings and giving more opportunity to different type of yoga professionals and holistic professionals overall. So we're really excited about what the future holds.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Any other updates you want to share? Is that the main one?
I would say that's the main one. I don't want to spoil the party.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm sure there's lots more in the works, but people will have to stay tuned for that. And Dania, one of the questions I like to ask pretty much everyone who comes on the show is just around business lessons that they've learned in their career. So I'm wondering, just through, your whole career, like all the things you even did before CoachPals, I'm curious if there's any kind of big business lessons that you've learned that you want to share with listeners today.
I think one of my favorite maybe lessons or like core values or general ideas is take risks and fail fast. I think for me, that's one of my two biggest mottos, like my core ideas when I'm to face something. The first one, take risk. I think it's really important. It's always about really being able to not apologize with yourself, right? To not keep postponing that dream that you have and just being able to do it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be complete. You just have to start taking the step towards that big achievement and then fail fast. Every time you fail is an opportunity to learn. And then it's an opportunity to understand what's working, what's not working, and pivot if you have to and continue moving forward. So once you have an idea, try to make a little validation, but don't be afraid of executing, measuring, and then moving forward. So I guess that's my two biggest lessons to learn is, make it happen, fail, learn, and keep going.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing that because I feel like that's so important. I think sometimes we have this idea of what things should look like in entrepreneurship and in business and stuff. And it can be really discouraging when we put something out there and it doesn't work. But I love the idea of failing, getting up, trying again. And I think something, especially having, a small child who just recently went through this, but it's just so amazing to watch little kids and how they just learn in general. But I feel like walking is a really great example of they stand up, they kind of teeter, they take some steps, they fall, then they stand up, they do it again. And then they get more and more steps. But it's my daughter's been walking for months now and she's still splat on her butt. It's sometimes it kind of bothers her a little bit. And she's like, obviously a little sad, but it's like, she just gets up and tries again. And I think that we sometimes lose that as adults. We have ego, we have expectations, we have all these things kind of that are going on in our minds that I think prevent us from just going for it, just like getting up and walking, even though you don't know how to walk, and then you fall on your butt and you just get up again until you learn. So I really love that kind of value and philosophy on life. It's interesting to just think about like, I have so much like learning something new feels like so much harder as an adult, right? But kids are just like little sponges. They just constantly learn. And I feel like I always try to apply that like, okay, like falling on your butt can be embarrassing, but it doesn't have to be, right? It's just the perspective that we're putting on it. And I think it's like really admirable to just, something fails, let's try something else. And I think when you hear about and you start reading about entrepreneurs, especially the ones that have had big successes, it's often the thing that we know about is like maybe the third, fourth, fifth thing that they've tried, right? It's like they've been trying and failing until something, worked, something caught on, that type of thing. So I feel like it's good to remember that as adults. Amazing. So this has been a really wonderful conversation. I'm curious, can you share with listeners about where they can go to find you, if they want to check out CoachPals, where they can find that, all that good stuff?
Yes, absolutely. You can connect with me at CoachPals, definitely. www.coachpals.com. You just find my name, Dania Valladares, and you can connect with me. Also on Instagram, CoachPals at CoachPals app, or you can just send me an email, Dania Valladares at CoachPals.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been really wonderful, and really excited to share a little bit more about CoachPals with everyone listening.
Thank you, Amanda. I had a great time. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, my friends, I hope that you enjoyed that episode of the podcast with Dania from CoachPals. Definitely go check out CoachPals. And if you guys want to try your first month of the professional monthly plan, which is normally $5 a month for free, you can sign up using code MBOM, so MBOM, and that's over at coachpals.com/memberships. You can also sign up and check out CoachPals for free. Just head over to coachpals.com, sign up, create an account, see what it's all about. If you do that, then definitely find me on the platform, connect, come say hi. But once again, if you would like to try your first month free when subscribing to a professional monthly plan, use code MBOM to do that at coachpals.com/memberships. And of course, a big thank you to all of you who listen to the show. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing the episodes, for listening, learning, reaching out, letting me know your thoughts, all that good stuff. Truly couldn't do it without you guys. So thanks again. All right, I will see you next week. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbomyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.